I think Sean Payton, Coach of the Year, 11-1 isn't a bad bet at all. But I think the one I like the best is for Denver to make the playoffs at plus 190. I think that could be interesting. I think there are two teams in the AFC that really people don't think could make the playoffs that I think could surprise. I think your Titans are one of them. I think the Broncos are the other. The Titans I like because I just love Vrabel as an underdog, and I think his team will rally around him. But Denver I like just because of the upside and the potential of if Russell Wilson is really good with Sean Payton, we know how good that defense is and how good of a home field advantage Denver is when they're good, that I think they could be tough to deal with. So there's always a team every year in both conferences that nobody sees coming. We look up in week 12, week 13, they're in the playoff picture. Maybe Denver is that team this year. I think there's a chance they could be. Sean Payton, I know they threw him a boatload of money, and that's the big reason he took the job. But I have to believe, too, that if he didn't think Russell Wilson had anything left, he probably wouldn't have taken it. So clearly Sean Payton saw enough in Russ for him to take the job, for him to think that he could win games with him, for him to be the head coach of the Broncos. So for Sean Payton to do that, it's good enough for me. I think the Broncos are going to be really competitive this season. I think there's an outside shot that maybe they make the playoffs. But yeah, Russ is going to have to play better, and the defense is going to have to be as good as it was last year.
Well, I think the offensive line has to be better. You know, you can't expect your quarterback to be successful if he's consistently getting hit. Broncos quarterbacks last year were sacked 63 times. Russell Wilson was sacked 55 of those times. Brett ripping the remainder of those portions there. And there was just too much miscommunication on the offensive line. They went out this offseason. They got Ben Powers at left guard. He's going to replace Dalton Reisner. They went out and they signed Mike McGlinchey at right tackle to a 5-year deal. And the hope is that these guys can maybe fill the void that has been there at those positions specifically. They believe they have an all-pro right guard in Quinn Miners. Garrett Bowles, obviously, he's a former all-pro. He's coming back off of a major leg injury last year. There's still some questions on the offensive line, but if they could get improved play, even just, let's say, top 20 play in the NFL, they're going to be drastically better than they were last year, but it's going to start and end with the offensive line. If they can give Russell Wilson time to throw, he's going to connect with receivers like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, tight end Greg Dulcich, but they also need to get the run game going. That's why Javonte Williams, who made his return back from last year's season-ending ACL injury, he's 100% ready to go. You have Samaje Perine behind him, and you may have an undrafted rookie free agent who's a change of pace back in Jaleel McLaughlin. So they may go with a by-committee approach in the run game. That's what Sean Payton wants. Run the football, set up the pass, and I think the Broncos offense, if they can do these things consistently well, they'll be drastically better than they were last year. Well, look, I've always said this as well. Every year, you look at Kansas City, they're the team to beat, and seemingly nobody has figured out how to beat them, how to dethrone them. I mean, the last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs, it was in Peyton Manning's final season as a member of the Denver Broncos. That's how far back we have to go here. So for me, I think that with Sean Payton, he gives them a competitive advantage where they will be more disciplined. And they were competitive. They were in those games with the Chiefs this past season here. But I don't know until we see something in the regular season that shows that they can beat the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs will still be the favorite inside the AFC West. And look, you have the Chargers are rising up with Justin Herbert. He's talented. I still think there's a scenario Denver makes the playoffs even as a wild card. And look, that's the thing. Get to the playoffs. That's Sean Payton's expectation. We all know the article that came out a few weeks ago that set the NFL world ablaze. He said he would be pissed if this was not a playoff team. So the expectations for him are very, very high. And I do think that to the point, injuries of everything that you talked about, Denver's going to have to stay healthy. They're going to need their key guys this upcoming season. The AFC is so tough, but Denver, I think, will be much more competitive to a point. Hey, you go 9-8, there is a chance you do make it to the postseason as that last wild card there with the NFL expanding it a few years ago. They have a chance to, but I do expect them to be at least in the conversation leading up to the final weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, I think that's the key word, sprinkle with Schauffele there at 3 under par. Again, we haven't seen a player come back from that deep to actually win the Tour Championship. But if there were to be history this week, it would be by the way of Xander Schauffele getting it done. Now, This 10 under par Scotty Scheffler is probably the strongest 10 under we've had in the history of this new format. And I say that because Scotty Scheffler, guys, is coming off and wrapping up just an absolutely historic regular season, playoffs, etc. The ball striking numbers have been off the charts. He gained over 214 strokes tee to green this season. Second place was almost half of that with Rory McIlroy. So you have your numbers stacked against you, if you will, when you are Schauffele or anybody really behind Scotty Scheffler here this week. I just don't see him backpedaling at all. And over at BetMGM, you're still going to get him at plus money here this week to win with the starting strokes applied here. And another note, too, about Scheffler and his putting. Yeah, not that great this season, but these greens are not complex here at East Lake. Once you get onto those putting surfaces, it gets pretty easy. It's off the tee where things are difficult. But yes, to answer your question, I would say that Schauffele would be worth that sprinkle. Don't go too hard with your units, but yeah, maybe a quarter unit or so.
The Braves have been one of the best teams in the first 5 all season long. In fact, they are the best team in all of baseball at scoring runs early and often. So I think that's the play. Tyler McGill does not scare me as an opposing starter. Because last night, even though the Braves lost, like the offense was still chugging along. It's not like they got shut out. They just gave up 10 runs, and most of those at the hands of a rookie pitcher who did not have much of a sample size pitching in the big league. So I trust Bryce Elder a little bit more, and I do think the Braves continue to hit all of those home runs.
Going with Ryan Mountcastle Chelsea of the Orioles over 1.5 total bases today at plus 115. Mountcastle has been on an absolute tear. He missed about 3 weeks during the season. He had vertigo symptoms. Ever since he's come back, he's batting like 390 with the Orioles. Been on a tear. He has a 26-game on-base streak. He's consistently getting on base. And historically, his favorite team to hit against is the Blue Jays. He absolutely loves hitting against the Blue Jays. So we have all those things going for us. Oh, and by the way, he's one of the best hitters in baseball against left-handed pitching. And we have Yusei Kikuchi, a left-hander, on the mound today. All things are pointing towards Ryan Mountcastle today for the Orioles. Over 1.5 total bases at plus 115. That is my best bet of the day.
Ooh, PJ, looks like it's going to be a Baltimore type of day here on the Daily Tip because my best bet also involves the Baltimore Orioles. I'm going to be taking the Orioles at a short price today at minus 115, I believe, on the money line. I think it's a good price for one of the best teams in baseball and a team that usually does well in this spot. You look at the Orioles at home this season, they're 36-23. You look at the Orioles as favorites this year, they are a blistering 39-15. So when the Orioles get any kind of credit in the betting market, it usually means they are going to prove the market right because this is a team that's been undervalued all season long. That's why they're one of the most profitable teams to bet on in baseball all this season. And also, you mentioned the righty-lefty splits. The Orioles are one of the top teams against left-handed pitching, top 10 in all of baseball against lefties. Plus, Grayson Rodriguez has been much better as of late. Back-to-back quality starts for the youngster. And also against Toronto, he hasn't had his best starts, but they haven't been terrible. His worst one, 5 2/3, 3 earned runs. That is 1 out away from a quality start. So I'm not going to fault him there. So let's go O's at home today as short favorites for my best bet.